Now you have to decide where our building is going to live. If it's going to live right along in here, touch and begin laying in some basic shapes. That's all we're going to do, is just lay in some basic shapes. We're not worried about a lot of detail at this point. There we go. We'll do a big old skyscraper here.
The Big Apple's always booming. New York's not only the biggest city in the world, it also attracts the most visitors. About 60 million every year. But no matter how many folks pass through, sometimes all it takes is one happy little tourist to up this city's joy game. Yep, he was here. I can still smell the joy.
Hello, welcome to the studio. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Nicholas Henkins, and I'll be your certified Bob Ross instructor today, sharing with you some of Bob's joy of painting and the wonderful techniques he shared with us.
Certified Ross instructor Nic Hankins is no stranger to the podcast. We told a lot of his life story in one episode. In another, we went to Daytona Beach to watch him paint new Bob Ross-inspired compositions for Series 32 of The Joy of Painting.
I try to go back, I try to find those emotions and those feelings because I want to give them to somebody else, because I want the next 12, 13-year-old kid to have their life changed so much for the better because they watched me or Bob or whatever and, got obsessed with this, and it turned out to be a great obsession.
Now Nick's here in New York to change more lives and to promote the unfinished Bob Ross series on public television's digital network, Create TV.
It's just been wonderful. It's just been such a wonderful influence on me, and I know a lot of other people too, so it's real special to sort of pay homage to Bob.
And he's not standing on a street corner with a bullhorn or handing out flyers. Nic Hankins is enduring the hustle and the bustle of the big city to do what he does best, teach folks how to paint like Bob.
Now with a 2-inch brush, grab this and pull it. Because the canvas is wet, you can move the paint. Look at that, that easy. That easy. You can move a mountain. Isn't it fantastic to have that much power?
But this place is massive. Where do you go to complete such a mission? Central Park? Wall Street? The Bronx? You'd probably want to go someplace where things are always happening, every day, for, about the past 70 years or so.
We are in NBC's World Communications Center in the heart of Radio City, New York. We are in touch with the world. We'll tell you what's happening today.
The Today Show is a New York-based network TV staple. It debuted in 1952. It's one of the longest-running series in U.S. television history. Today is an all-timer. A morning talk show catching us up and commenting on the latest goings-on around the world. Hollywood actors show up here. So do Olympic athletes, celebrity chefs. But it's not just the guests who are well-known. Today's current co-hosts include longtime NBC News anchor Craig Melvin and famous former VJ Carson Daly.
Hey, what's up? I'm Carson Daly, and welcome to another edition of Total Request, the one and only hour on MTV that you guys are in complete control over. We get to talk.
And let's not forget the legend, Queens-born Thanksgiving Day Parade mascot, Al Roker.
I think we all love Thanksgiving, but this guy takes Thanksgiving to new heights.
Nic Hankins has been invited by NBC not just to talk about Bob Ross. He's not just here to paint like Bob either. To fully understand the joy of Bob Ross, Nic is about to teach Carson, Craig, and Al just how it's done.
I thought today I'd show you, when you learn to paint, it's not how to paint that's difficult, but what to paint. And I'm going to show you a super way today to make up little scenes in your mind, and it teaches you fantastic things.
So Nic recently took a shot at teaching us the Bob Ross method. We went in not knowing how to paint at all, certainly not paint a landscape, but Al, Carson, and I, we did have a great time trying.
I've been in television studios before, but everyone's different, and this is a major deal. This is network television, so I didn't know exactly what to expect.
Neither did Craig, Carson, and Al. So to prepare properly, paint wasn't the only thing that was sampled.
How about just a little toast?
And this will make our paintings much better.
Or at least they'll look much better. Cheers to Bob Ross.
And to what you're about to endure with us, knuckleheads.
You might want to have a double.
There were lots of discussions about, how much time would we have them, and that was the major concern going into it. Trying to make something happen quickly. With Bob, it's he makes it look easy because he'd been doing it for 20 years, and then you can make something happen in 30 minutes. But it's a little tougher with somebody that's never picked up a brush.
If I go over 30 minutes, they don't have any sense of humor here. they come out and drag me off here and do evil things to me.
Craig, Carson, and Al aren't painters. And like a lot of first-timers, at first they were skeptical about the task at hand. Painting a majestic Bob Ross landscape.
Let me show you where we're going, or where I hope we're going.
That is not where we are going to get.
We're never going to get there.
You might surprise yourself.
Wow.
Working with them was just great. All three of them were super nice, very warm people. Any trepidation I was feeling at all went away as soon as all four of us had a brush in our hand and it hit the canvas. It's like that's when I kind of go, I hate to call it autopilot, but
In the zone.
yeah, the zone. There you go. And I don't know if this was captured on camera or not, but I remember Carson saying, yeah, Bob Ross was our primary competition on TRL.
But Nick wasn't the only one helping our TV pros prep their palettes. CRI's Eddie Cuervo and Doug Hallgren were on hand to do what CRIs do, make life easier for their students.
We did a little thing where we had to paint the floor to customize it to make it look a little more like a...
That was interesting.
Yeah. What's the artist's painting? I'm trying to think of the drip splatter paintings. Pollock, yeah, Jackson Pollock.
That actually turned out really good. I mean, it's like, we were kind of like, you gotta be kidding. It's like, paint's gonna be everywhere. But it actually turned out really good. On film, it looked good.
Ah, the magic of television. And okay, fine, so Doug and Eddie were doing a bit of set dressing too.
We did a happy little theme for you,
like the
which
Today
we
Show.
customized for you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. The Today Show.
Now, whose idea was it to theme the painting after the Today Show logo? Brilliant, by the way. Who wants to take credit for that? Was that our side or their side?
No, that was NBC.
All right, well, good for you, NBC.
Public relations guru Robin Inslee was on hand, working alongside Today Show producers to make sure both teachers and students were on the same canvas.
It's theoretically a news show, so how do we adapt and convert like a lifestyle, a big painting segment that's usually runs anywhere from a half an hour to an hour and a half in real life, an hour and a half painting thing, into something that can be newsy and immersive and all, and make it really sort of captivating.
This is NBC, baby. The big dogs. The schedules are packed. The talent move fast. And so the expectation was that Carson, Craig, and Al would be in and out quicker than Bob Ross could show you his squirrel.
We would be lucky if we got 30 minutes.
Let me show you my little squirrel one more time. I'm so crazy about that little rascal. I'm just going to be putting in a few trees here. This is what I call my peekaboo squirrel. But isn't that the cutest little thing?
And you know, they're very, very busy talent. They've also been up at 4 o'clock in the morning, beginning to work on a television show for 3-4 straight hours. And they also, their schedules after the live show ends at 9 or 10.
But Bob Ross magic knows no time limit. In fact, the joy of painting transcends time, maybe even space.
Everybody on the set, not even us, but you know, the cameraman, the producers, and the assistants realize that they're having such a great time and they're enjoying themselves so much, and they're engaging with Nick in such a this very amazing, sort of friendly, engaging way that you just didn't want to stop it. And they didn't know, they really didn't know at the end. You know, Carson Daly was like, I don't know whether this has been 20 minutes or an hour and a half.
I know you're saying, oh, Bob, you done it this time. You may be right. Let's do it again then. What the heck?
He made it accessible for people.
Absolutely. Get yourself a little runway of paint there.
Runway.
Just figure out where we want our mountain to live and drag it down to the left.
Yours already looks like a mountain, Nick. I see where you're headed. Not so sure where I'm headed.
It was really sort of amazing to see them get into the whole zen with Nick and just fall right in. No one wanted to stop.
Just the two. Like that? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
There you go.
Come on. This is fun. You've taken 3 painting idiots and you've made it exciting.
They were really, really friendly, and they weren't really like, okay, let's just get this thing over with and let's get out of here. They stayed and they were really engaged, and that was really,
and
really
also
cool.
the bourbon helped too. I think
That was my next question.
You may be inclined to pour a cold beverage while painting.
I'm an iced tea freak. I was raised in the South, and everybody there likes iced tea.
Al Roker and friends opted for an elixir that'll put hair on your chest and fire in your belly.
You know, I get it. They want to, take the edge off a little bit. This is a new thing. Be lubricated so you
Liquid
paint
courage.
a little better. I thought that was going to be like a behind the scenes thing, and then, they start rolling, and Craig Melvin starts pouring these big old drinks, and I was like, oh, it's going to be that kind of party.
And then I'm going to have you guys paint the ultimate Bob Ross thing, and that's the happy little tree.
Happy tree.
Go straight in there, make a little touch.
I was a little worried going in that the conversation might kind of fall off as they got super concentrated. And anytime it got a little quiet, Craig was right there asking a question or making a comment, and it was just great. He really helped the thing flow.
It's an art that Craig, Carson, and Al have been perfecting for decades. It's truly the fabric of what they do, and that confidence flows out of them naturally, even when they're trying something new.
The few celebrities that I have taught, I did notice that they have a tendency to kind of dive right in and study what it is that they're trying to achieve. Like they maybe approach it a little professionally. Like, this is a new skill that I need to learn for this particular gig. So here we go.
And they have a sense of, they know what they want. They know what they're wanting to do with whatever's in front of them.
That's a skill Bob learned years ago, too. Developing a relationship with the canvas, the camera, and the audience beyond it.
I know what I want to do. Let's take the oval off now, and I'll show you what happens. Bring the camera right up here close, and I'm going to take this piece of contact paper off. Look at here. Look at here. Isn't that fantastic? Right there, you got a beautiful painting.
And it's often that combination of self-assurance and showmanship that leads to the greatest art.
Look at that.
That's beautiful.
What?
Wow.
Yes, it's out today.
Oh, wow. Wow.
You could put that in a museum.
And leaves us wanting more.
Coloring books for adults and puzzling are all becoming really popular.
Yeah.
It really did have that sort of it was like, wow, this is so nice.
Do you feel like you could do it again? If
I want to actually.
If Nick were standing next to us.
Exactly. I would do this in a heartbeat.
And as for Nick, Doug, and Eddie, teaching celebrities how to paint? No big deal. Sure, they had a blast, but they were hardly intimidated by the hot lights of network television.
Once we started rolling with the piece and, the guys were doing their thing, it really just kind of goes back to, I'm teaching a class, and it's kind of like an out-of-body experience there for a little while. You're just in your element doing your thing, and you're aware of what's going on, but it's not so much that it's in your mind eating at you or, don't mess up. I'm just teaching a class.
We have certainly enjoyed being with you today. And I hope you've painted along with us, and you also have an almighty painting. All you need is the dream in your heart and the desire to put it on canvas.
And if you think it's only TV morning show hosts that get to take Bob Ross-style painting classes, think again. There are Bob Ross instructors all over the world, just waiting to teach regular folks like you and me the wet-on-wet technique. Becoming a student? That's easy, but to teach others, that's a new skill set entirely. You can't just read from a textbook or point to a diagram. You can't sit in silence and quietly tickle in some clouds. The most crucial component to teaching the wet-on-wet technique is interaction.
Because we'd like to see and talk to you.
Whether you're showing your grandkids, your sister, Al Roker, or a total stranger how to make happy little trees, your job is no longer to just paint. It's to communicate. You gotta put in the work, build confidence, and conquer your fears. So let's find out more about bravery. That's what we'll do. We'll step inside the classroom and start painting with Q.
We'll just come right along in here and do something like that. We're gonna check you out for bravery today.
Should I call you Q or Quintin? Either. I normally go by Quintin. I went with Q simply because it's here for a website. And so people call me both.
Quintin Burlingame has invited me to sit in on his Bob Ross painting class in Franklin, Tennessee. It's a hot summer Saturday, and the Franklin Recreation Center is buzzing with pickleball players, early voters, and swimmers. Crave some quiet, maybe a little air conditioning? Let's head inside.
In the summertime when it's hot, this tree provides some shade. Keeps you nice and cool in there.
Where Q awaits a bunch of aspiring oil painters looking to beat the heat and beat the devil out of their brushes.
Let me clean the old brush again. I like to wash these brushes. Shake it off. There we go.
Easels line long tables, paints and brushes by their sides. A finished version of Season 25's Desert Hues is up on the wall for reference. A video camera to capture Q teaching in real time, a literal rolling tool chest to hold all his gizmos. And of course, the mandatory Bob Ross No Mistakes tie-dye t-shirt. And I can't help but notice the wisps of blue and pink hair atop Q's head.
Your shirt matches your hair.
Yeah, no, it very much the shirt matches the hair.
Nice touch.
Today, Q also has to deal with one very curious podcast host. No pressure.
If you don't mind me, because this is a pretty sensitive mic, I could probably just float around like a happy little cloud and have fun all day. Sorry, that's top of mind.
A room full of happy little students firmly plant themselves in seats, and Q begins his performance.
Hello, everyone. My name is Quintin. I'm a certified Ross instructor. What that means is I took a course in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, of basically painting all day, every day for 3 weeks. It's a curriculum Bob designed. They still teach the same curriculum. I do also want to introduce our guest with us today. This is Ron from the Bob Ross podcast. He's just going to record me, so just ignore him.
Don't ignore me.
I'm not going to be ignored.
A couple things about wet and wet that's a little bit different than traditional oil painting. These are very, very firm oil paints. This is because a thin paint sticks to a thick paint. So as we progress through the painting, we may thin a couple of the colors. The other thing that's a little different is we start with a wet surface. This makes it easier to apply the paints. It makes it easier to blend the paints.
Sounds like Q knows his stuff. Surely he must be doing this forever.
I took every art class I could in school. I would paint watercolors along with Bob on Saturday mornings, and then nothing for the longest time. It went into retail, which I absolutely hated. When COVID hit, I was laid off with everyone else, and so I had extra time on my hands, a little extra money, and I'd always wanted to do the CRI training. Like, even when I was little, remember hearing Bob mentioning it.
When we're teaching our instructors, that's one of the things that we emphasize. We want to teach people creativity, not just a copy. Not just a copy. It's very important to me that you learn creativity because it makes you feel good in here.
Wanting to do it, but also not thinking you could make a job doing art, so it never really occurred to me that it was a realistic career choice.
This is the first of 2 Bob Ross painting classes Q has on the books this weekend. He's got 2 more next weekend, then the weekend after that, in different spots around the state. Spring Hill, Nolensville, Clarksville.
If it makes sense for your painting, not everyone's painting is the same, but maybe you want to grab a little more of that dark color and put another line right underneath and scrub that out. Create the illusion of another hill a little bit closer to us.
All because he took that first step into the Bob Ross Art Gallery and Workshop in Florida.
The thing that I was most surprised about is I was surrounded by other Bob Ross nerds. So it was just very surreal being in a place of, oh, other people know as much about Bob as I do.
You know me. I'm fanatical about people having friends, and even trees need a friend. And painting has allowed me to meet so many people and make so many friends. That's probably the most rewarding part of this whole thing.
When Q returns to Tennessee, his CRI training complete, he doesn't have a grand plan. Instead, he heads to a nearby rec center to find out how he can teach on site.
Like, I had no idea what I was walking into. We did one class, it filled, there was a wait list. Next thing I know, I'm doing 2 classes a weekend at multiple facilities. I was like, okay, I guess this is what I'm doing now. I'm going to dip just the tips of the bristles into that liquid white, both sides of the tips of the bristles. And I'm going to begin distributing that around the canvas. We are using the Bob Ross canvases today, so you'll notice that they are kind of gray tinted. This makes it much easier to see the liquid white. I'm actually mildly autistic, so I don't talk much. I tend to be a pretty quiet
You're doing all right.
person.
Yeah, you're doing pretty well so far.
Until I get talking about something I enjoy, and then I can talk and talk and talk. One of the reasons why teaching is something that comes so natural to me is Bob basically gave us a script, and I just pull these phrases out like I pull out Jurassic Park quotes. I didn't want to teach because of imposter syndrome, of never thinking that I ever know enough to actually properly teach something. And between the certification classes and just having those episodes logged in my head, it's way easier than I would expect to be able to just get up there and go. And I'm going to go into the titanium white. So again, I'm going to pull down a little puddle. I'm going to tap the bristles nice and firm, rotate that brush. And I'm also going to reach down to the yellow ochre, so that bronzy yellow in the middle. I'm just going to grab a small little touch of that and work that in. So it's still mostly white, but just a little bit of bronze in there. In fact, I may have gone a little much with mine. Yeah, there we go, somewhere's in there.
To have that foundational Bob Ross experience as a reference point, not just the catchphrases, but the tools, the colors, is invaluable.
This next step is where Bob would say 2 or 3 hairs in some air. This is very metaphorical. Even the little kids will come in and they will recognize the brushes and they'll reference the fan brush and the knives.
I just wanted to use a small round brush stick just to show you what fantastic things it'll do. So it's unbelievable what you can do with it if you'll just practice a little. Just make friends with it. All of these tools, you have to make friends with it.
And even if you're not teaching celebrities how to hold a brush right from the jump, you might ultimately find yourself teaching with celebrities.
Back last year, I actually had an opportunity. David Arquette actually taught a class for Second Harvest Food Bank.
It's just fun when when you're able to teach someone who's a Bob Ross fan about how to actually do a happy little tree. It's my favorite stuff.
He reached out to me and I went and I just kind of helped out with that.
Unsolicited? He just contacted you? Hey, it's David Arquette.
They actually went to the pool here and saw my poster and then contacted me.
Oh, that's right. He's from here. That's
yes.
right.
We should have put a squirrel in there or something. No, I'm just kidding.
Think about the lay of the land and how that mountain is going to flatten out as you get closer to the land. And I'm going to do that from every peak. It's going to pull down and out. And then using crisscross strokes, just blend out the middle and that bottom so it disappears in the mist.
Quintin Burlingame is no longer a beginner. Imposter syndrome was cured by practice and hard work. Teaching folks to paint like Bob Ross weekend after weekend has helped him overcome his condition. It was never something he really intended to do. It just happened.
Just sort of let these things happen. Sort of look at your painting and decide where you want a tree to live. I think maybe a tree would be very happy if he lived right out here.
If life imitates art far more than art imitates life, then maybe, just maybe, the young Q who grew up watching The Joy of Painting was always meant to do this.
Now, in every other episode, Bob probably would have done this with the brush. So we'll take a vote. Who wants to do the grass with a brush? Who wants to do the grass with a knife? No one. Okay. No one. I enjoyed the mystery of not knowing where a painting was going. Well, that's a mountain, but then he ruins it, and then it's beautiful, and then he ruins it again, and then it's beautiful again. And that magic of the just never knowing what's going to come out is, I think, what really appealed to me the most.
Becoming a certified Ross instructor, leading a room full of folks on a mission, and not knowing how any of it's going to turn out. It all revolves around that same magic, that mystery of what's going to happen next. It's something Bob shared on a screen that carries over into every classroom.
That's one wild mountain, isn't it? And you can do it. You can do this one. Take your time when you're at home. Look at the angles, study it, put it together. It'll work for you.
The joy of teaching isn't just about finishing a painting. It's not just about filling a calendar or making a happy buck. The joy of teaching Bob Ross's technique is about sharing knowledge, witnessing wonder, and connecting with other people. And by committing yourself to be more like Bob, you're likely to learn something new every day.
Tomorrow might be a completely different experience.
Some people use initials, some use their entire name, some use last name, some use first name. You come up with a way of signing your painting. And however you sign it, make it consistent. So that 100 years from now, when collectors are looking for your paintings, they'll know what to look for. And they'll know that on this day, you had a fantastic day. And today you experienced the joy of painting. And from all of us here, until the next show, I'd like to wish you happy painting, and God bless, my friend.
The The old clock at the rec center tells me we've got another finished podcast episode. I want to thank my guests, Eddie Cuervo, Doug Hallgren, Nic Hankins, Robin Inslee, and Quintin Burlingame. This happy little episode was produced with help from James Shapiro at Jansen Media and mixed by Digital Sound and Video of Daytona Beach, Florida. Support your local public television station and say thanks for giving us Bob Ross and the joy of painting. We want to see your paintings. You can use hashtag #PaintLikeBobRoss. Bob Ross certified instructors are the only ones that know how to teach you Bob's world-famous painting method. Don't settle for second best. Find a local CRI at bobross.com and then click Take a Class. Got your own Bob Ross story to tell? You can leave us a message at 866-FANBRUSH. Or you can email us at podcast@bobross.com. And follow us on Instagram at bobross_the joy of painting. I'm Ron Scalzo. The Joy of Bob Ross is written and produced by me, Ron Scalzo, in partnership with Bob Ross, Inc. Bob Ross name and images are registered trademarks of Bob Ross, Inc.